Imagine living in a serene town like Shimla, India, where everything seems peaceful until you uncover a shocking secret. In 2017, behind the closed doors of an ordinary home, a young woman was subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Forced to live as an animal by her own father-in-law, she endured a nightmare hidden from the world. This true crime story reveals the horrifying depths of abuse and control that shattered her life. Priya, a vibrant young woman with aspirations of a joyful married life at the age of 25, Priya seemed to have it all: love, family, and hope for the future. However, her dreams quickly turned into a haunting reality when she found herself trapped in a nightmare of abuse and humiliation at the hands of her father-in-law. What began as a promise of happiness spiraled into a dark existence where her dignity was stripped away, leaving her to fight for her freedom and sanity in a world that turned against her. Rahul. At 28 years old, Rahul appeared to be a loving husband, but beneath the surface, he struggled with the overpowering influence of his father. While he was supposed to protect Priya, he became an unwilling accomplice to the abuse, choosing silence over confrontation. His inaction and complicity only deepened Priya's suffering, as she felt increasingly isolated in her torment. Caught between loyalty to his father and love for his wife, Rahul's failure to act would have devastating consequences for them both. Mahesh. At 55, Mahesh was a respected figure in the community, known for his charm and authority. However, beneath this polished exterior lay a dark and controlling nature that he wielded over his family. As Priya's father-in-law, he hid his abusive tendencies behind a facade of normalcy, using his position to manipulate and degrade her. His domineering personality and twisted sense of entitlement transformed their home into a prison, where fear and intimidation reigned, exposing the stark contrast between his public persona and the monster lurking within. The story unfolds in Shimla, a quaint and seemingly peaceful city in India, known for its breathtaking landscapes and serene atmosphere. At first glance, life here appears normal, filled with the charm of everyday routines and community gatherings. However, behind the idyllic facade of this small town lies a web of dark secrets, where some households harbor unspeakable horrors. It is within this backdrop that Priya's tragic tale emerges, revealing the stark contrast between the picturesque surroundings and the chilling reality of abuse and control hidden behind closed doors. Priya's marriage to Rahul began as a beautiful union filled with love and hope. At 25, she envisioned a future brimming with joy, partnership, and shared dreams. Rahul, at 28, seemed like the perfect husband, showering her with affection and promises of a happy life together. However, as time passed, the dynamics of their relationship began to shift dramatically. Mahesh, Rahul's father, gradually infiltrated their lives with his controlling nature. Initially, Priya admired her father-in-law, viewing him as a guiding figure in their family. But as Mahesh's influence grew, so did his demands and expectations. What once was a nurturing environment turned into one governed by power and fear. Priya found herself caught in a web of manipulation, as Mahesh's domineering presence overshadowed her marriage, creating an atmosphere where her happiness was secondary to his whims. The love that once defined Priya and Rahul's relationship began to erode, replaced by tension and an unspoken fear of disapproval from Mahesh. As Rahul struggled to balance his loyalty to his father with his love for Priya, the cracks in their marriage widened, leaving Priya increasingly isolated and trapped in a life dictated by another's oppressive will. What began as a fairy tale quickly transformed into a nightmare, with Mahesh at the center, wielding his power over both his son and daughter-in-law. The abuse began insidiously, with Mahesh's controlling behaviors masked as concern for the family. Initially, he would make subtle demands, insisting on minor adjustments in Priya's daily routine. "Why don't you wear something more traditional for family gatherings?" he would suggest, framing his requests as advice. At first, Priya brushed these off, thinking he simply wanted to maintain family values. However, these seemingly harmless comments were the first signs of his need for control. As time went on, Mahesh's demands escalated. He began to dictate how Priya managed household chores, criticizing her methods and enforcing his own rigid standards. "You need to serve dinner precisely at 7 p.m., he would say, leaving no room for negotiation. The pressure mounted as Priya tried to comply, feeling the weight of his expectations crushing her spirit. Soon, Mahesh's behavior shifted from verbal control to outright humiliation. He would belittle Priya in front of others, making snide remarks about her cooking or her appearance. "Is this the best you can do? A daughter-in-law should know how to please her family," he would sneer, leaving Priya feeling small and powerless. This cycle of manipulation and degradation gradually pushed Priya into submission, stripping away her confidence and making her question her worth. What had started as subtle controlling behaviors morphed into a relentless torrent of humiliation, leaving Priya trapped in a toxic dynamic that threatened to consume her entirely. Mahesh's control over Priya became extreme and shocking, turning her life into a nightmare. What started as small demands quickly escalated into cruel and degrading acts. He forced Priya to crawl on all fours, telling her, "This is how a good daughter-in-law should behave." In a state of fear and desperation, she obeyed him, feeling her dignity vanish. It didn't stop there. He made her eat from a bowl on the floor, saying she should be grateful for what she received. The humiliation was overwhelming, but Priya felt powerless to resist him. As Mahesh's abuse grew worse, he began to tie Priya up whenever she showed signs of defiance. This made her feel even more trapped and helpless. Each degrading act chipped away at her spirit, leaving her feeling like a shadow of her former self. Friends and family had no idea about the horrors happening in their home. Priya, once a lively young woman with dreams, now struggled to find her voice and identity as Mahesh stripped her of her humanity, reducing her to a mere servant in his twisted game. Rahul's role in Priya's suffering was deeply troubling, as he remained silent while his wife endured horrifying treatment at the hands of his father. Caught between his loyalty to Mahesh and his love for Priya, Rahul chose to stay passive, either out of fear or indifference. He watched helplessly as Priya was subjected to dehumanizing acts, convinced that speaking out would only bring further conflict into their home. His inaction allowed Mahesh to continue his abuse unchecked, creating an environment where Priya felt utterly alone and unsupported. Rahul's lack of action was just as damaging as Mahesh's abuse. Instead of protecting Priya, he became an unwilling accomplice to her torment. Every time he ignored her cries for help, he reinforced Mahesh's power over her, making her feel even more trapped. Priya's suffering was compounded by the realization that the one person she should have been able to rely on was choosing silence over her safety. This emotional betrayal left deep scars, as Rahul's failure to act not only eroded their marriage but also shattered Priya's trust in him. As the situation spiraled out of control, Rahul's complicity in the abuse became a painful reminder that sometimes the most damaging betrayal comes not from the hands that harm but from the hearts that refuse to protect. The moment Priya decided she could no longer endure the torture was a turning point in her life, fueled by overwhelming fear, emotional trauma, and relentless physical abuse. After enduring months of dehumanizing treatment, she reached a breaking point when Mahesh tied her up for what felt like the 100th time, his cold laughter echoing in her ears as he mocked her. The weight of her humiliation was suffocating, and each degrading act chipped away at her spirit, leaving her feeling like a ghost in her own life. That night, as Priya lay bound and terrified, the realization hit her hard. She was losing herself. The fear of Mahesh's wrath had kept her silent for far too long, but in that moment, she felt a flicker of defiance igniting within her. It was a desperate attempt to reclaim her life. With tears streaming down her face, she silently resolved to escape this nightmare, no matter the cost. As the first light of dawn broke, Priya quietly unfastened the ropes that held her captive, her heart racing with both hope and fear. With only the clothes on her back and a determination to find freedom, she stepped out of the shadows of her tormentor, ready to face the unknown rather than endure another day of suffering. Priya's daring escape from the house was both a terrifying and liberating moment. As dawn broke, she quietly slipped out of the room where Mahesh often kept her tied up. Heart pounding in her chest, she crept down the dimly lit hallway, careful to avoid any creaking floorboards that might alert him. Each step felt like a small victory, a step closer to freedom. Once outside, she was met with the cool morning air that felt refreshing against her skin, reminding her that she was alive and had a chance to reclaim her life. With nowhere to go but forward, Priya ran through the narrow streets of Shimla, her heart racing with fear and hope. She finally made her way to a nearby police station, trembling as she entered. Summoning all her courage, she shared her story with the officers, detailing the abuse and humiliation she had endured. However, her initial pleas for help were met with skepticism. Some officers struggled to believe her shocking claims, unsure how a respected figure like Mahesh could be capable of such horrors. It wasn't until Priya's injuries were revealed, bruises, scars, and evidence of her maltreatment, that the officers' disbelief began to wane. With the arrival of forensic experts and the examination of her physical condition, the horrifying reality of her situation became undeniable. Investigators quickly sprang into action, leading to a deeper inquiry into Mahesh's actions. As the truth emerged, Priya's bravery became a catalyst for change, sparking an investigation that would expose the dark underbelly of her once peaceful community. The shocking evidence, along with Priya's courageous testimony, helped authorities take her claims seriously, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life, a fight for justice and healing after enduring unimaginable suffering. The case was taken on by detectives Rohan Mehta and Anjali Sharma from the Shimla Police Department, both known for their dedication to uncovering the truth. Detective Mehta, with over a decade of experience, was determined to ensure Priya's voice was heard, while Detective Sharma, a passionate advocate for victims of domestic abuse, quickly formed a bond with Priya, providing her with the support she needed. Together, they aimed to bring Mahesh to justice, knowing that their work could change Priya's life forever. As the investigation progressed, the detectives meticulously gathered evidence that made the horror of Priya's situation undeniable. They documented her physical injuries with photos, capturing the bruises and scars that revealed the extent of her suffering. Alongside this, they conducted interviews with neighbors and family members, gathering testimonies that highlighted Mahesh's controlling behavior. The combination of Priya's harrowing account, the photographic evidence, and corroborating testimonies from those around her built a strong case against Mahesh, empowering Priya to stand up against her abuser and seek the justice she so desperately needed. The trial began with a heavy atmosphere, charged with emotion as Priya took the stand to share her heartbreaking testimony. With trembling hands and tears in her eyes, she recounted the horrors she had endured at the hands of Mahesh, her father-in-law. Her voice quivered as she described the degrading treatment, the loss of her identity, and the suffocating fear that had dominated her life. Each word pierced the courtroom, bringing many to tears and drawing palpable gasps from those present. Priya's courage in sharing her story resonated deeply, revealing the raw pain she had endured in silence for far too long. On the other side, Rahul, Priya's husband, sat quietly, visibly conflicted as he attempted to justify his inaction. When called to testify, he struggled to articulate his feelings, stumbling over his words as he tried to explain why he had remained silent during his wife's torment. His defense felt inadequate, a weak attempt to excuse his complicity in Mahesh's abuse. Meanwhile, Mahesh sat stoically, his cold demeanor unyielding as the truth of his abusive actions came to light. Despite the mounting evidence and Priya's emotional testimony, he showed little remorse, maintaining a facade of innocence that further infuriated the courtroom. The contrast between Priya's vulnerability and Mahesh's detached arrogance intensified the emotional stakes, making it clear that this trial was not just about legal justice, but also about giving Priya the voice she had been denied for so long. As the courtroom waited with bated breath, the judge finally delivered the verdict. Mahesh was found guilty on multiple charges, including abuse and unlawful imprisonment. The news struck the room like a bolt of lightning, sending shockwaves through those present. Many, including Priya, felt a sense of relief wash over them, knowing that justice had been served. The judge, acknowledging the severity of Mahesh's actions and the profound impact on Priya's life, sentenced him to a lengthy prison term. This decision marked a significant turning point, not just for Priya, but for others who had suffered in silence, demonstrating that abusers could be held accountable for their actions. On the other hand, Rahul faced charges for his complicity in the abuse, as his silence and inaction had enabled Mahesh's horrific behavior. While he had not physically harmed Priya, the court recognized that his failure to protect her from such cruelty was a serious offense in itself. The judge handed down a sentence that reflected this complicity, sending a message that bystanders to abuse have a responsibility to act. The verdict served as a powerful reminder of the importance of speaking out against injustice, reinforcing the idea that every individual has a role to play in supporting victims and preventing abuse from occurring in the first place. As the gavel struck, a new chapter began for Priya, filled with hope for healing and rebuilding her life free from fear. In the aftermath of the trial, Priya faced the daunting challenge of rebuilding her life. The trauma she endured left deep emotional scars, making it difficult for her to trust again or find a sense of normalcy. Each day was a battle as she worked to process the pain and regain her sense of self. However, with the support of a local women's shelter and counseling services, Priya began to find her voice again. She attended therapy sessions that focused on healing from trauma, allowing her to express her feelings and fears openly. Slowly but surely, she started to rediscover her strength and resilience, embracing her journey toward recovery. Empowered by her experience, Priya also became an advocate for other survivors of domestic abuse, sharing her story to raise awareness and inspire those still trapped in silence. The impact of the case rippled through the community of Shimla, leaving many residents grappling with the disturbing revelations. What had once appeared to be a peaceful and harmonious neighborhood was now overshadowed by the harsh reality of hidden abuse. People began to reevaluate their own relationships and the dynamics within their families, realizing that they could no longer ignore the signs of domestic violence. The trial sparked conversations about the importance of speaking out against abuse and supporting victims, leading to the establishment of local support groups and initiatives aimed at raising awareness. Many in the community rallied around Priya, offering their support and encouraging her to share her experiences. The once quiet town was transformed as residents banded together to create a safer environment, fostering a culture of vigilance and compassion. Priya's journey not only inspired change within herself, but also ignited a movement toward greater awareness and action against domestic violence in Shimla. This story shows us how power and control, if left unchecked, can turn into unimaginable cruelty. Priya's courage to escape reminds us all of the importance of speaking out against abuse. Her journey from victim to survivor highlights that even in the darkest of situations, there is hope for healing and redemption. It urges us to break the silence surrounding domestic violence and empowers others to seek help and stand against their abusers. As a community, we must remain vigilant, support one another, and ensure that no one feels alone in their struggle. Together, we can create a world where love and respect triumph over fear and control. Thank you for watching this powerful true crime documentary. If you found Priya's story impactful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more compelling content. We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Rahul could have done more to stop the abuse? Your insights are valuable and can help raise awareness about the importance of speaking out against domestic violence. Together, we can foster a community that stands up for survivors and encourages conversations about these critical issues. Thank you for your support.